want to talk about fate, or maybe just coincidence. So in my intro to theater classes right now, I'm currently in the process of introducing them to the concept of stock characters in our discussion of the Commedia dell'arte. Stock characters, for those who don't know, are, of course, those recognizable character types that are specific to every genre. Every genre has their own. These are characters that the audience is instantaneously familiar with. We know who these people are, we know what their role in the film is, and we know basically what part they're going to play in the story. This way, you know, the concept behind it originally is so you don't have to waste a lot of time setting things up. The audience gets it, they know who these people are, so you don't need all that exposition. You just need to kind of fill in the blanks for this specific scenario. And the reason I bring that up is because this movie is stock character palooza. Like, if you were playing romantic comedy bingo, you would have filled it up like in the first 10 seconds. You have got everything that has been established ever since like the early 2000s. You've got your quirky, flawed female lead. You've got your offbeat, not traditionally handsome, but still conventionally attractive, nice guy. You've got the sassy best friend. He's got the sex-obsessed best friend. There's the vapid fiance. There's the egotistical boyfriend. There's the snippy, overbearing mother. There's the selfish, spoiled sister. They're all here, and they're here to play about fate. Now, but let's be clear here, and I've said this multiple times here during these reviews, is that being stock, or being familiar, or being traditional, it's not a bad thing. There is nothing wrong with the use of archetypes or stock characters or familiar stories. The challenge comes with how you use them, and do you use them effectively? Do you do something new and interesting with the stock types, or at the very least, can you create a enjoyable story using those stock types? And in this case, the answer is yes. I was actually very pleasantly surprised by this picture. The first 10 to 15 minutes of it, I was not sold. Because, again, they did a quick exposition dump. They introduced you to every stock character you could possibly think of. And the whole thing just felt very familiar and tired and uninspired to me. And that rhymes slightly. So I will say that it took it a little bit to really kind of kick into gear for me. But once it did, I really found myself enjoying this film. So what is it about? Before we get too deep into the review, what's the film about? So we have our two main characters, one played by Emma Roberts, who you may remember is the niece of Hollywood A-lister Julia Roberts and the son of Hollywood guy Eric Roberts. They tried to make her a big deal in the child star arena back in the early 2000s. She did the reboot of Nancy Drew, and then hasn't done a whole lot since. At least nothing high profile. She's been in a lot of stuff. It's interesting that her career has kind of so far more mirrored that of her father than it has her aunt, and I think that's actually a good thing, and we'll talk about that here in a second. So we have her and our other lead, Thomas Mann, who you may remember from... Okay, this isn't about where you remember him from. The important thing is he's here now. Again, a character actor. I remember him from Kong Skull Island. He was one of the soldiers in there. But anyway, so these two live lives that are so eerily similar, everything down to having pretty much the same apartment, the same address, the same taste in movies, the same decorations, a cat that they've named after a character from Breakfast at Tiffany's. So much to the point that in the early goings of this movie, you would be forgiven for thinking that this was actually a multiverse story and they're the same person from different universes. Which is an interesting idea, but I don't know if I'd want to see it. Anyway, so the movie tries very hard in this early going. It's almost obnoxious how hard it tries to convince you that they are already together and seeing each other and know one another through the use of little clever hints and things like that. But of course, if you watch the trailer, you already know that's not true. But anyway, Thomas Mann is getting ready to propose to his girlfriend, who is, of course, the vapid, self-obsessed influencer character. So much so that we obviously know it's so that when he eventually dumps her for Emma Roberts, spoiler alert, we don't feel bad because, of course, she's a shrew and a terrible person. He's getting ready to propose to her. Meanwhile, Emma Roberts just gets dumped by her self-obsessed boyfriend the day before her sister's big New Year's Eve wedding. Through wacky hijinks, Thomas Mann ends up getting drunk, getting dropped off at the wrong address, because of course their addresses are almost exactly alike, falling asleep in her bed. She finds him, and desperate to not be a laughingstock at her sister's wedding, she convinces Thomas Mann to come with her and pose as her boyfriend, whom she's been telling them all about. And of course, through the course of this evening, they end up falling in love with each other, and, hijinks and whatnot ensue. So there's your premise. As premises go for romantic comedies, it's about on par. Of course, there's this instinct in us, and I am guilty of it as well, of criticizing these things for these weird-ass setups. But, when you really think about it, is the weird-ass setup really that weird? I mean, these days, criticizing a romantic comedy for a weird-ass setup is like criticizing a Bond film because there's a gunfight. Or criticizing a Bond film because it has a weird setup. I mean, it's part of the genre now. Yes, the best ones don't go in for that as much, but, it's part of the genre, so you just have to kind of gauge it on a scale. How unbelievable is this? How crazy is it? And can the actors pull it off? Are the characters likable enough and the actors charming enough for us to kind of forgive the extreme suspension of disbelief we have to participate in to kind of accept the setup? And I think yes. In this case, yes. I think the film has two major strengths. Number one, it's very well written for one of these things. And I hate to add that qualifier, but it's very easy for these things to just rely on the stock, It's very easy just to fall backwards into your kind of predictable jokes and humor. And I think for the most part, it avoids that. For the most part, it seems very earnest and very heartfelt, especially in the scenes that Emma Roberts and Thomas Mann have to each other. And I think that's the other great strength. I think it is very well cast. These two are very good together. There is excellent chemistry, to the point that their on-screen conversations don't feel like staged scenes with predetermined dialogue. They feel like real conversations. And that's good. Like, the humor is such that it feels natural. I believe these characters. And moreover, you believe why they fall in love with each other. You believe what they see in one another and how the other person makes the other one a better person. That's a very convoluted sentence right there. So I apologize for that. But you see what I'm saying. You know, like, one of the big flaws in modern day romantic comedies is that one partner, usually the male, is such a dismissive asshole. You know, it's like, why would she ever fall in love with this guy? And we see why she would fall in love with him. And moreover, you see why he falls in love with her. Not just because, you know, she's an attractive young woman, but because she's got spirit, because she supports him, because she likes the things about himself that, of course, his evil, shrewish girlfriend is always trying to push down. You know, he supports her and shares her romantic outlook on life. You know, so you get why these two characters fall in love. It's very well done, and I think the film definitely belongs to the two of them. And I like the choice. This whole movie is made up of lesser-known actors, side actors, character actors, day players, whatever you want to call them. And I think that's a smart choice, because this feels more like a real film and a real people, even given the extravagant nature of the setup. These feel like real people for the most part. And I think this is the better version of another film that I reviewed this year, whose name I won't mention, so its fan base doesn't come at me, of a good way of using lesser-known actors. And lesser-known actors who are really making the most of this film, realizing they don't have to play second fiddle to a huge star. So it feels more like an ensemble, and the film feels fairly well balanced, and I like that. I will say that I can't give a huge thumbs up to all of the characters, because a lot of them really do fall into those archetypes, and I feel they could have ratcheted that down just a little, especially in the realm of Emma Roberts' mother and sister, who really are, for the most of this movie, just this, you know, overly demanding, and you're always going to mess it up, you're always going to ruin everything. It's like, Jesus, you know, what kind of fucking family is this? You know, I know it's supposed to show a contrast to Thomas Mann's family, who were just, you're the greatest thing ever, you're wonderful, we love you, you know, uphold all of our traditions and all of that. But still, it's really, really just, they give the sister a bit more depth, but not a whole lot, and it feels a little unearned. After the all is lost moment, when they kind of have a little moment backstage at the wedding, and the sister tells her, you know, stop trying to be me, I'm not perfect, you know, I don't have a perfect life. Notice she doesn't give us any examples of that, she just says it, you know. So it feels like they were building this whole thing about her, Emma Roberts, not being able to live up to her sister, but it didn't feel like that came across at any other time in the film. I also feel this with Thomas Mann's influencer girlfriend. Look, I hate to bite the hand that doesn't feed me. You know, I love social media to certain extents, but I get how influencer is kind of our new go-to career for vapid, self-obsessed characters in these movies, but they really went a bit overboard with her. And for a minute there, I thought they were going to redeem it. I thought after, you know, again, spoiler alert, after Thomas Mann dumps her and he and Emma Roberts look like they're going to get together, his influencer girlfriend shows up back at his apartment and is crying, and Emma Roberts is trying to comfort her. It's like, oh, this is an interesting twist. They're gonna like show that he really hurt her, and, you know, maybe she and Emma Roberts are actually going to become friends, so it's not just going to do this whole, it's consequence-free, I got rid of the horrible harpy, and now I can marry my dream girl. I thought it was going to do something really interesting, and it didn't. It just turned out she was there just to kind of twist the knife in Emma Roberts and create a second all is lost moment.
The all is lost moment!
So I feel like they could have done something more interesting and different there, but on the whole, those characters still adhere to those archetypes. And I think in a film where our main characters are so grounded and work so well, I think that does play against it. That being said, again, very well written and funny, unexpectedly funny. There is this wonderful scene where Emma Roberts' ex-boyfriend, played by the guy from Mortal Kombat, this is the last Mortal Kombat movie, crashes the wedding to try to get her back. It's where, of course, all the secrets are revealed. And he's a black belt, a multiple-time black belt, and Thomas Mann is not. And they have this fight scene, which a funny fight scene is very hard to do. And it is funny. I laughed out loud at certain lines and moments. So I think that, and they gave him a little bit more depth. Not a lot, but they gave her boyfriend or ex-boyfriend more depth than the other characters. And I think they could have matched them to him a bit more. But these are side issues. Look, end of the day, there's no way this thing, or any romantic comedy really, is going to achieve the level of something like When Harry Met Sally. But that's like complaining that an action movie isn't going to hit the level of Die Hard. You know, those are the high watermarks. You know, those are the creme de la creme. Or complaining that a sci-fi film doesn't reach the level of Gattaca or Planet of the Apes. You know, those are the legends of those genres. They are the best of the best. And you can't expect everything to reach that level. What you can hope for is that they avoid falling to the level of something like 27 Dresses. And I think this movie does. This movie does exactly what it sets out to do. It's charming, it's entertaining. You know, it's like, it's a meal that you might not put that restaurant on the top of your rotation, but it also didn't give you horrible indigestion and gas. You know what I mean? You're going to go back to that restaurant occasionally, but maybe not as often as some of the others. I think it's serviceable, it's fun, it's charming, the leads work really well together, and I think overall it was a delightfully surprising film. I did not expect to have this much fun with this movie, and I'm glad I checked it out. And I think if you're a connoisseur of these kind of movies, especially around this time of year, this is a holiday film, you know, New Year's Eve, so you get all the wonderful, you know, the wintry imagery and the Christmas trees and all that. I think you could check it out. I think it's a bit, I'd rank it higher than most Hallmark movies, is what I'm saying. So, all right, let's wrap this up. I don't think there's much more I can get into on this one. So, final grade for About Fate. I'm going to go a solid B on this one. Almost a B minus. It's kind of leaning a little bit towards the B minus, but I'm going to be kind because, again, I feel like the movie is good-spirited and good-natured. It's not ugly like a lot of romantic comedies. It is very warm, and it does leave you feeling good. So I think it earns that little knock up to the full B. Again, don't know how often I'll watch it again, but I think I'll put it in a rotation. I think it's a good little film, and I think it deserves a little bit more attention. So I urge you to go check it out. I don't think you'll be disappointed. All right, so thank you very much for joining me. Thanks for coming along, and as always, drive safe, and I will see you at the movies.